Hello, this is again René Pickard speaking, and welcome back to the third part of my tutorial on how to build an auto-completion on Google Web Toolkits. So where were we? Remember, we were in this web application starter project. We entered a name and didn't receive any suggestions while typing, but we saw network traffic. We pushed the send button and we get a remote procedure call that was fine. And in our source code we were at this position. But we already see there are some uncaught exceptions, and if you read into them, you will actually realize that there were null pointer exceptions at this point. And this is makes sense because so far we haven't implemented our server side, and when we get the result and we cast it to response, there will be a null pointer. And if we look in here, remember for the function that we just implemented, we just returned null. So let's change this in the third part of my screencast. So let's go. Since we want to give back a response object, let's just create one. So now we have this one, and the question is, how do we fill the response object actually with interesting stuff? So let's just look what the possible methods are, and there's one that says set suggestions, and as a parameter we just need some collection of a template that extends suggestion. So let's create this one, and let's make also an array list item suggest. And let's call it suggestions. And this is a new array list, of course, of item suggestion. Okay, perfect. This won't work yet because first of all we need to include the libraries for the array list. That's an easy one. But then this class item suggestion doesn't exist yet. So let's create the class. Important is that we have to put it into the shared or the client package and not into the server package, otherwise we'll get serialization errors. But that's always with remote procedure calls. So the item suggestion should implement some interfaces. First of all, it should implement is serializable, but then also it should implement suggestion. So when we do this, the class is not too happy because there's some methods missing. So let's get them. And if we look here, that looks much better yet. The array list. Oh, because of the typing error here. Sorry. So at least the code is correct, but we haven't filled any new suggestions. So let's just add some. So we add them to the array list, and we do this by creating a new item suggestion. And well, let's put a string inside that says one suggestion. And just for the heck of it, let's create a few more. Let's call it another suggestion, and they don't depend on the query yet. And just one more to let you know, this will come in the fourth part. This will come in the fourth part. Keep tuned. So the problem is that this constructor doesn't exist, so we also create this constructor. So here we go. So let's save a private string s. We put s equals the argument here in the constructor, which is fine. And those two variables should also return the string, actually, the get display string and get replacement string. So that's basically it. Just for completeness, I will just create another constructor, which would be this one, and this one should just set the string to null. So now if I stop the server and have the server run again, you can already guess what will happen is if I go to the site, I have to refresh it and wait a little bit again. But now, in a second, my suggest box will be here, and once I hit a keystroke, I will not only have network traffic, but I should have suggestions, which doesn't work yet. I know what I forgot. Let's go back to the implementation. I still returned null and not the response. I'm sorry for that. So let's refresh the server. Hope that was enough. Yeah. So I type in something and I get one suggestion, another suggestion. They don't depend on the query yet, and this will come in part 4. And I hope you enjoyed this little excursion. And if you're familiar with GWT, this is probably everything you need to start off from here. But in the next part, we will learn how to integrate a database and also how to save the database into a context listener, so that the database connection will always remain within the server. Okay, thank you very much for listening, and I hope you enjoyed it.